I think it definitely did. It let me identify issues quicker. And from a standpoint, people think that those don't work. I think they do. I mean, it can be some tough things, they know, but I think it does. Just know where to go quicker. You know what I'm saying? You're eventually going to do the same things, but it just sometimes being there a year early I was right. That is something that I definitely thought. You know what I'm saying? And also be able to communicate with the people who you're going to have to make the changes with. Just start that relationship earlier.
Sorry, a self-serving Tampa question, but again, title game is coming here. Mm-hmm. What's important to you as a coach in a championship site in the city?
They got that stadium in a good hotel. the rest of it, I'm not worried about. I think it's important that you're in a warm environment or a closed environment where outside factors for a championship game, as far as weather and things, aren't as big a deal. I'm a believer in that. I think, in a championship game, they should be played like that. But at the same time, I joke about that, but that's true. Make sure we got the accommodations and the meeting space at the hotels, and that, we're in a place that we want. We'll definitely be in the place we want to play. But I mean, distractions can be critical. You know what I mean, and how you got to limit them and what your control is. But what goes on. But they're always going to be at great venues. You know that. Tampa's a good one.
You're on a tail end of your tour this year. Mm-hmm. How was it, and what has the boosters meant to you?
Boosters are critical. I mean, you can't do the things we're going to do, and there's a lot of things we have to add to where we're going. The academic support, academic center, more things for these players in so many different ways, and not just, I say players, but student athletes, to develop them as people. So many other programs in place that we have to keep enhancing and growing at, and you can't ever stop at. And I think that development for them and your coaches and everything else. And I'm not talking about just facilities. I'm talking about a lot of things behind the scenes that develop these kids. I think that's the difference in the good teams and the great teams today. A lot of teams have good players. A lot of teams have great facilities. But you're willing to invest into those kids behind the scenes with your programs, your personal development, your academic development, all those things of building the person, then the student, then the player. I think those are the critical things, and without those, the boosters, we couldn't survive without the boosters. And it's critical. And we've still got a lot of things we got to get in place.
What's your favorite thing about being a head coach?
That's a great question.
Is it the kids? Is it?
Well, I think it's the kid. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, I'll tell you what. Define what you mean by being as a head coach. I mean,
when you look back in the rocking chair, when it's all said and done, and you're thinking back at this point in your life, what do you think you'll remember as maybe the best part about being the head coach of the Ford Snakes?
To be able to help get these kids developed as people, as students, and see different parts of life that they never thought they could be successful in, and getting them to buy into it and be able to understand it. And more importantly, once they have, it's like anything. Once they do it and have confidence in it, all of a sudden they can do it. Because we say, well, why didn't that guy do it? Well, think about this. When nobody in your family's ever done it, nobody in your neighborhood's ever done it, nobody in your block's ever done it. I mean, and you say, kids say, well, I'm going to do it. But how do they know? It's an experience in a world they're going into that they have to totally trust strangers. You say that's easy to do. That's not easy to do. Especially when you come from atmospheres and environments like a lot of them do, where if they trust the wrong person, they might not be alive. You know what I'm saying? And getting those guys to see that you really care and get him to understand that you have their best interests at heart and you're never going to tell them anything that's wrong for them. You maybe get on them. I ain't saying you ain't going to be hard, you ain't going to be tough, you ain't going to be demanding. I'm as hard and as tough as demanding as any of them and can be extremely tough. But at the same time, it's never done with anybody's, not their best interest at heart. And I think helping them understand that and then realize that they can be more and start to have success in those worlds and watch their light go on and how they transition as people and grow. I mean, I think that's by far the funnest and most rewarding thing.
You've had that with plenty of players. You've had so much success on the field. So what keeps fueling you?
That there's always someone out there that you can help. I mean, and if I get tired of doing that, then I get tired of coaching. To me, that is coaching. And it's like coming out to these, meeting the people, and then getting those people to come in and trying to help them become better. And honestly, a lot of times, they help me become a better person. And our coaches become better because we learn from them every bit as much as they learn from us. Because I'm going to tell you what, some of the things that they've done and been through, there's a lot of people out there in this world that criticize them and deal with them. They wouldn't be half the person they were if they went through what some of those kids went through.
Looking back now, how much has that role kind of changed from being an assistant to a head coach now?
I don't know if it's changed in that, but you can dictate more. And I tell you, some of the things I have to fight for, which bothers me as a head coach, that you got to fight for that time. You can set the policies in place, you can set the things in place, but the one thing sometimes an assistant, because you didn't have as many other things to deal with, you could spend more actual time. And that's why the thing, I'll never give up the coaching part of it, the interaction, walking through that locker room, making sure I'm coaching guys. I mean, being on the field, not being now, you're never a figurehead as a head coach because you always set the policies in place. But I mean, an active, hands-on guy, I can't ever see myself not doing that, because I think as a coach, that's the one thing as a head coach, I fight to make sure I've got enough time to be with those guys actually physically. You know what I'm saying?
Being an offensive guy, you were a standout quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you spend more time with the offense than you do the defense? Or
I think you do on the field when you're out there on the thing, but I interact with those defensive guys a lot. I told you, I'm the only offensive guy in the world that recruits more defensive players than he does offensive players, because I'm a believer in that. And I think I say that defensively is the key to me. And I say this wholeheartedly. I think it's easier to be good on defense, and I don't say that negatively. I think because of timing, rhythm. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go in the rim. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go in the cup when you're putting it, whether you're shooting it, throwing it. Sometimes there's a rhythm and a timing. That on defense, sometimes effort, toughness, and things. Not saying it's easy to be good on defense, but you don't ever have to deal with that part of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like some days it's easier to field a ground ball. Some day that pitcher throws it, you just don't see it. You know what I'm saying, offensively. But you can always, effort and toughness and things like that on defense can make up for that. And I'm a believer, defense first and then offense, and how it interacts. But I do probably more with the offense because I do call the plays and everything, but I spend a lot of time with our defensive players, a lot.
You and a couple other coaches at the spring meetings got to talk about not necessarily having to defend the ACC anymore, how it kind of stands on its own morals. And you look at that schedule this year, you have the reigning Coastal champion, you have the reigning Atlantic champion. How tough, I guess kind of the double-sided coin of, it must be nice to have the ACC be probably the best it's ever been, but at the same time makes that schedule that much tougher.
Oh, it does. I mean, we play Miami and North Carolina on the other side, open up with Ole Miss, got Florida. I mean, everybody talks about non-conference schedule. We keep forgetting we do what the SEC and everybody else does as soon as we play Florida. Because we don't, everybody says, well, why would you play? We play Florida. That's what they do and play what? 3 other schools, lower level schools, right? All the time. I mean, almost all those leagues do it. I mean, ours is built in. We're taking the extra step to play at Ole Miss. Next year we play Alabama, Clemson, Louisville, our side NC State. I mean, Boston College, traveling to Syracuse. I mean, it's all tough. I mean, 2 years ago we had the most players drafted of any division in college football, not just the ACC, but our side. The year we had 11, everybody's bragging about that. And how'd you play Louisville so tough? Well, they had 10. They had 10 guys drafted. I mean, so it's a great conference. I mean, it really is. And I think it's very, very, very underrated.
One more schedule thing. Is it nice for you? Obviously, you have the long trip to Syracuse and you have a trip to Louisville. Outside of that, the rest of them are in the state. Is it nice to kind
Now there's 3 of them out of state. NC State.
You're right, yeah.
There's 9 in, 3 out. Yeah, that does make it better. But also you got to play Florida and Miami and South Florida. Because, I mean, coming down here, South Florida's a heck of a football team. We were tied up at halftime. They won 7 of their last 8, won the bowl game. I mean, went to a bowl. Willie's done a great job, and it'll be a Super Bowl for them. They'll be ready to play. We're coming, off our 3rd game in 12 days, and then coming back here. I mean, it'll be tough.